When I first bought the house in Ridgewood Estates, I thought I was finally getting peace. The quiet suburban neighborhood, tree-lined streets, and lake views looked perfect. After years of renting tiny apartments in the city, this was my dream. But I didn't know that my biggest nightmare came with the neighborhood A in the form of Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of the hoe. She was the type of woman who believed the world revolved around her. Her blonde hair was always in a tight bun, her sunglasses permanently perched on her head like a crown, and she carried a clipboard everywhere. The first day I moved in, she was already waiting at the curb. "Excuse me," she shouted before I could even unload the moving truck. "You need to fill out the HOA compliance form before moving any furniture in." I laughed awkwardly, thinking she was joking. "I just bought the house last week." The realtor didn't mention any forms. Her lips twisted into a frown. "We have rules here, and new residents must be approved by the board." That was my first red flag. Over the next few weeks, she was constantly in my business. If I parked slightly over the line in my own driveway, a citation. If my trash bins weren't pulled in by 8 a.m., a fine. When my dog barked one night because of fireworks, a written warning. At first, I tried to play nice. I attended home meetings, smiled at her forced politeness, and even volunteered to clean the community park. But nothing I did was enough. Then one morning, I woke up to a letter taped to my front door in bold red letters. "Notice of eviction, HOA property violations." My jaw dropped. How could I be evicted from my own home? I stormed into the HOA office demanding answers. Karen was sitting there, sipping her coffee like she'd been waiting for me. "Good morning, Mr. Lewis," she said smugly. "Due to repeated violations, the HOA has decided that you must vacate your property within 30 days. "You can't do that," I snapped. "I own this house." She smirked. "The HOA has the right to enforce neighborhood standards. If you fail to comply, we'll take legal action." That's when I decided I'd had enough. But here's what she didn't know. I'm not just a homeowner, I'm a real estate investor. And through a property management company, I own 6 other homes in the same county, including the one she lived in. Yep, Karen was renting from me. I found out months earlier when reviewing my property manager's tenant files. Her name, Karen Whitmore, was right there on the lease for a house just a few blocks away from mine. I didn't make the connection at first, but now, seeing her name on that eviction notice, oh, it clicked instantly. Instead of confronting her right away, I decided to play along. For the next 2 weeks, I followed every ridiculous HOA rule to the letter. I repainted my mailbox to the approved shade of beige. I trimmed my grass exactly 1.5 inches short. I even replaced my house numbers to match their font style. But behind the scenes, I called my property management team and told them to begin the eviction process on Karen's rental, citing repeated violations of tenant policy, which included HOA complaints filed against her by other neighbors. Apparently, she'd been making everyone's lives miserable, yelling at kids for riding bikes too fast, threatening to fine old couples for decorative wind chimes, and even reporting one family for having too many guests. She thought she ran the neighborhood. She didn't know she was about to lose her roof. 3 weeks later, as she was still threatening to take me to court for my supposed violations, she got her own letter and official notice to vacate. I was working in my front yard when I saw her storming toward me, paper in hand, red-faced and furious. "Did you do this?" she shouted. I looked up, pretending to be confused. "Do what?" "This," she screamed, waving the letter. "My landlord is evicting me. I've lived there for 7 years. This can't be happening." I shrugged. "Sounds like a tough landlord." "You don't understand. I am the HOA president." "Oh, I understand perfectly." That's when I pulled out my phone and showed her a copy of the ownership document. "See this?" "That landlord you're talking about, it's me." The color drained from her face. She stuttered. "Why you own my house?" "Yep," I said calmly. "And considering how you've treated me and everyone else here, I think it's time you learn what it's like to be on the other side of an eviction notice." She stood there, speechless, clutching the paper like it might disappear if she held it tight enough. I walked back to my porch and added, "Oh, and don't worry, I'll make sure your deposit goes to fixing that illegal shed you built in the backyard." For the first time since I moved in, Karen didn't say a word. Over the next month, She tried everything. She called emergency home meetings, claiming I was abusing power. She even tried to convince the board to fine me for conflict of interest. But by then, most of the neighbors were fed up with her too. When they heard what had happened, they started siding with me. By the time her lease expired, no one showed up to help her move. She packed her things alone, muttering under her breath. The day she drove away, the whole neighborhood came out to wave goodbye, and not in the friendly way. Kids cheered, someone popped a soda can, and a few people even clapped. After she left, I applied to become the new HOA president, and since no one else wanted the job, I won unanimously. My first act as president, I abolished half the useless HOA rules she had created. No more mailbox fines, no more grass inspections, no more approved shade of beige. People could finally enjoy their homes without constant fear of a clipboard appearing at their door. The neighborhood transformed. People started talking to each other again. BBQs popped up on weekends, kids played in the streets, and for the first time, Ridgewood Estates felt like a community instead of a dictatorship. A few months later, I got a call from a property manager about a rental application. The name made me laugh. Karen Whitmore. Apparently, she was trying to rent another home in the same county. When they asked for my approval as her former landlord, I simply said, declined. History of harassment and HOA abuse. It felt poetic. But karma wasn't done with her yet. 6 months later, I was attending a local real estate conference when I saw her again, sitting in the audience, wearing the same oversized sunglasses, pretending like she didn't notice me. After the seminar, she approached me hesitantly. Listen, she said, forcing a smile. I might have a broken bar overreacted back then. Maybe we can put it behind us? I raised an eyebrow. Sure, Karen, as long as you promise never to run another HOA again. She laughed nervously. Deal. That's when she dropped her real reason for coming. I'm actually looking for a rental again. Thought maybe you'd reconsider. I smiled politely. I'm afraid all my properties have a strict no HOA Karen's policy now. Her smile faded, and she walked away without another word. As I watched her leave, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of satisfaction and relief. I hadn't just stood up for myself, I stood up for every homeowner who's ever been bullied by someone hiding behind an HOA badge. And that's the funny thing about power, the people who abuse it are usually the ones least prepared to lose it. A year later, Ridgewood Estates was thriving, property values were up, neighbors were happy, and our community was finally peaceful. Every now and then, when I drive past Karen's old house, I remember that eviction notice she taped to my door and how the tables turned. It's a reminder that sometimes, the best revenge isn't shouting or fighting, it's letting karma deliver the paperwork. Because in the end a broken bar. Karen tried to evict me from my own home, but she never expected I was the landlord of hers. Would you like me to make this story more cinematic, YouTube narration style with dialogues and suspense beats, or novel style, more detailed emotions and setting descriptions, for your next version?